Wristband is not the patient. Naris Holt knew that before she saw Elon soar breathing under white, med-hold light. She knew it before the corridor board still read, closed, before the gray-white band around his wrist flashed evacuated in clean green letters. The corridor was still closed. His wristband said he had already crossed. The band bit into his skin where swelling had started under the plastic. His chest rose beneath the sheet, shallow but real. A scanner chirped near the door, cheerful as a kitchen timer. The air conditioning blew dry antiseptic across the room until Naris tasted metal at the back of her throat. 6 minutes to the first transfer slot. She looked at the wrist first, then the pulse under the jaw, then the board above the inner glass. She took 1/2 step to the wheel side, not the center, because the center would block her own view. From there, she could see Iceland's wrist, the door reader, and the board without turning her head. Old habit. Field rooms, med tents, evacuation lanes, they all punish people who stood where they wanted instead of where the problem needed them. The body and the record did not agree. When that happened, the record waited. A person is not evacuated until a body crosses the line. The junior transfer tech beside the Gurney tried to clear his throat and failed. Everyone's throat failed in Al-Rakim. The place dried people out, even before it scared them. Hot toner drifted from the printer bank beyond the partition. The white panels on the wall threw back too much light, flattening faces, making sick men look already processed. Naris took the tablet from the tech without asking. Elon Soar's file matched the bracelet. Status: evacuated. Transfer chain: complete. Threshold record: pending reconciliation. She did not accuse the system yet. An accusation too early would give Calder, command, or whoever owned the next doorway a clean word for her. Emotional, obstructive, local. She needed custody leverage, not a speech. Elon's eyelids fluttered. His mouth worked once around air. Naris bent close enough to hear the breath catch. Not dead. Not gone. Not crossed. A rubber wheel creaked as the tech shifted his grip on the Gurney handle. His thumb hovered near the release pad, then lifted. He had seen the same contradiction and hated being alone with it. Naris put one boot against the wheel and held it there. The rubber sole dragged a 1/2 inch, then caught. "Doctor," the tech said, already lowering his voice, as if volume could decide liability. "The slot is marked hot." Naris kept her eyes on the bracelet. "He is not moving. The status says he already did." "The status can wait." She said it quietly, which made it harder to push back against. Beyond the glass, personnel moved past in clipped bursts, badges flashing, sleeves rolled, faces dry and gray with the same calculation. Every delayed transfer stole seconds from somebody else. Naris knew that. She counted the slot clock without looking at it, the way she counted blood-up bags and exits when rooms started lying. Somewhere outside the hub, real evacuees were sitting under heat and bad news, counting on the first clean opening of the Gulf corridor. The cost settled between her shoulder blades. Still, Elon's wrist remained warm under the edge of the sheet, present and inconvenient. His fingers curled toward the bracelet. Even fogged and half gone, he seemed to understand what could be taken first. The tech reached for his radio. Naris caught his wrist before he keyed it, not hard, just enough to stop the motion and keep the room from turning into noise. "Call it a custody hold," she said. "Now." He looked at her boot against the wheel, then at the board, then at Elon's band. The scanner near the door chirped again, an impatient little sound. "On what basis?" he asked. Naris let go of his wrist and touched the edge of Elon's bracelet with 2 fingers. The plastic was warmer than it should have been in the cold room. "On the basis that the patient is breathing on the wrong side of his own evacuation." That got him. His face changed, not much, but enough. He started to turn toward the wall panel. Before he reached it, the outer med hold door opened with a soft pneumatic sigh. Routine access granted. The reader tone was clean and polite, the kind of sounds that made refusal look messy. A man in a pale contractor jacket stepped inside, calm as a signature. He placed a clearance card flat against the reader. The green light answered for him and reflected across his knuckles. He looked directly at the gurney. His gaze skipped Ilan's face and went to the process around him, which told Naris where he believed the real patient was. "Dr. Holt," he said. "Calder Vey. I'm here to complete that transfer." The card reader still glowed green behind Calder Vey's shoulder. Naris could have worked with a forged badge, a bad order, a loud man trying to bully a room. Calder brought none of that mercy. His clearance had opened the door cleanly. His jacket was pale. His hands were empty. His voice stayed low enough that everyone else sounded theatrical. He did not step toward Ilan first. He stepped toward the transfer tech, toward the little places where frightened people gave ground. "The slot is active," he said. "My team has movement authority." Naris kept her boot against the gurney wheel, but only enough to spoil the line. Too much force would help Calder frame her as the problem. Ilan's bracelet still showed evacuated against living skin. Valid clearance is not custody. Calder gave her a patient look, the kind men used when they were already writing the complaint in their heads. "Doctor, the corridor clock is not built around private hesitation." "Good," Naris said. "This is not private." She let that sit. In rooms like this, extra words gave the other side handles. A second man came in behind Calder and let the door sigh shut at his back. Dovrenik did not announce himself. He did not need to. He was broad in the shoulders, quiet in the feet, and careful enough to be annoying. He moved to the far side of the gurney, not blocking Naris, not yet. He blocked the transfer tech's view of Ilan's wrist and the nearest camera angle at the same time. Naris watched his feet, not his face. He placed one boot just outside the wheel path, one inside it, making the gurney a question with bad answers. Calder placed a slim folder on the counter, then laid his clearance card flat beside it, square to the edge. The green reflection sat on his hand like a clean answer. The badge reader at the inner door chirped when the card came near. Green again. A door somewhere beyond the glass unlocked. Calder let the sound hang. "You see the access," he said. "I see a door opening," Naris said. "I do not see custody." Dov shifted the gurney 3 inches. Rubber dragged against the floor, dull and sticky. Ilan's fingers twitched toward his wrist. Naris moved with the gurney, not against it, keeping bracelet, wheel, and door in the same field of view. The transfer tray came with the folder. Routine items arranged too well. Seal strips. A sterol packet. A gray-white replacement custody band inside a clear plastic sleeve. Naris saw it, filed it, and did not stare long enough to give Calder a reason to move it. Replacement bands lived in transfer kits. They were not strange by themselves. Bad things traveled best when they looked normal. Calder followed her glance anyway. His face did not change. He avoided Ilan's original bracelet, and that was worth keeping. If he wanted clean movement, he could not look too eager to break the chain in front of witnesses. "The receiving side requested reconciliation," he said. "He will be corrected in movement." "No," Naris said. "He will be corrected before movement, or he will not move." The tech swallowed. Dove's shadow covered half the sheet. The med-hold AC pushed cold through the room, but warm plastic smell rose from the transfer tray. Naris felt the clock without looking. Every second she held Ilan here, some other name waited outside the corridor. Calder knew it. He was leaning on those names without saying them, which made the pressure cleaner and uglier. The wall console gave a short double tone. Not the scanner. Manifest, sharp and dry. Naris looked toward the glass. Veda Lask stood beyond it with a tablet under one arm, and the expression of a woman interrupted by stupidity and insult at the same time. She had one hand on the access panel, her badge blinking amber instead of green. "Naris," she called through the speaker too fast. "Do not release him." Calder turned only his head. No surprise. Naris caught the small absence and kept it. "The manifest is lagging," he said. "It happens during corridor activation." Veda cut over him. "Lagging does not change order." She tapped the tablet hard enough for the sound to carry through the glass. Islandsor's airside seat is already marked filled. The room thinned out. Even the AC seemed to pause, though machines were never that considerate. Naris kept her boot on the wheel, her hand near Ilan's bracelet, and her eyes on Calder. His card still worked. His clearance still opened doors. The patient was still breathing. And now, according to the list, his place beyond the threshold was already occupied. Calder's mouth softened at one corner, not a smile exactly. More like he had expected the room to arrive here late. Veda did not ask to enter the room. She knew better. She stayed behind the observation glass and turned her tablet toward the speaker camera. The system could see her before. Command could pretend she had only raised her voice. The screen showed Ilan Sor's name on two different lines. One line belonged to the man breathing on the gurney. The other belonged to an airside seat that already had a filled mark beside it. Naris felt the shape of the problem before she had all of it. A body could be misplaced. A record could lag. A seat filled before the body crossed was order breaking under pressure. Calder stood near the transfer tray, with his card still flat on the counter. Dov Rennick kept his quiet weight near the far rail. Ilan's fingers remained curled toward the bracelet. The gray-white band still said evacuated. The board beyond the inner threshold still said closed. Naris shifted half a step, enough to keep Dov from using his shoulder to hide the wrist from the glass. He noticed. Good. Let him spend attention. Somewhere behind Veda, a printer woke and started chewing paper with small angry teeth. Nobody moved for 2 seconds. That was long enough for Naris to hear Ilan breathe again, and long enough for Calder to check the board. Veda sent the printout through the slot under the glass. It came out warm, a narrow strip of thermal paper with one edge already curling from heat. Naris took it without moving her boot from the wheel. The ink was dark in places, green-black on the screen behind Veda, black on paper in Naris's hand. Veda tapped the glass with one finger. The list changed order and left a fingerprint. Calder made a soft sound, not quite a sigh. Manifest lag. No, Veda said. Lag comes late. This came early. Naris looked at the sequence again. Ilan's seat was marked filled before his current transfer had cleared med hold. The corridor token beside the seat carried a timestamp ahead of the official opening order. Not by much. That made it worse. Big lies had drama. Small lies did not announce themselves. Naris almost misread one amber line as a correction, then caught the row above it. No correction. A duplicate trail. She felt heat from the paper in her palm and wanted, stupidly, to rub the timestamp off and see if the body changed with it. It did not. Ilan still breathed. The bracelet still lied. The strip smelled faintly burned, like cheap receipts left on a dashboard. Colonel Tarek Morn arrived through the command line. Not in person. His face appeared on the wall panel above Veda's shoulder, cut into hard angles by bad light and a worse connection. He looked tired enough to be fair and dangerous enough not to be kind. Local reconciliation errors are expected in activation windows, he said. You know that. Naris kept the paper where the camera could see it. This is not a reconciliation error. It is a local anomaly until it is not. Morn's voice carried the weight of people waiting beyond the hub. Their names were not in the room, but they still had a claim on it. I cannot freeze the corridor because one bracelet, one seat line, and one token disagree during startup. Calder lowered his eyes, almost respectful. He did not need to push. Command was doing the first part for him. Naris saw Calder glance once toward the board, not toward the printout. Closed would not last forever. Once the board shifted into audit-sensitive movement, packets stopped looking routine. A useful clearance could become reviewable in the next cycle. He was not calm because he had time. He was calm because the room was spending hers. External custody, Naris said. Put Vera Kest on the chain. Morn's mouth tightened. Not surprise. Cost. Kest will not act on local noise. Then, give me something outside the hub. Veda glanced toward the corridor authorization room and back again. Burned coffee, hot toner, dry coughs behind the glass. The whole place sounded like people trying not to be afraid of paper. Naris folded the strip once, not neatly. She already knew proof alone would not hold the body. The body was on wheels. Wheels beat paperwork, unless someone put a wall in front of them. Morn looked past her, toward the gurney she was still blocking, toward the living man the system had already spent. You get non-local proof, he said. Relay, external custody, something that cannot be rewritten here. Until then, this is a sync issue with a patient attached. Calder lifted his card from the counter. Dov shifted closer, forcing Naris to choose between the wheel and Ilon's wrist. She chose the wrist and moved the wheel with her boot. The timer over the transfer lane changed color, a small amber pulse that made the room lean forward. Morn's final words came through clean and flat. Prove it before boarding pressure hits Dr. Holt, or release him. Naris did not answer Morn. No answer bought more time. A reply would only give authority the pleasure of sounding patient. She folded the thermal strip into her palm and stepped back toward Island's gurney, feeling the rubber floor pull at her boots. Calder's card was no longer on the counter. It was in his hand, ready for the next reader, the next green light, the next polite lie. Dov had the far rail of the gurney. He held it like hospital equipment, not a weapon, which made him harder to stop. Elon's eyes were half open under the white panels. His fingers had slipped from the bracelet and lay against the sheet. The replacement band still sat in the transfer tray, inside its clear sleeve, harmless-looking and wrong in the way normal objects could be wrong. Medical hold buys time, not truth. Naris knew that before her hand reached the wall control, it would not prove the token early. It would not bring Vera Kest into the room. It would keep Elon's body behind the line a little longer. Sometimes a little longer was the only tool left that was not a lie. She keyed the hold. The panel gave a low tone, and the med hold door began its slow inward seal. Too slow. Everything mechanical became slow when a body needed it fast. Calder turned his head. Dov moved before Calder spoke. He pushed the gurney toward the narrowing gap. With the clean confidence of a man doing exactly what he had been paid to do, and not 1 inch more. Naris watched the wheel line, not his shoulders. The front wheel hit her boot. Pain ran up her shin, bright and stupid. She shoved her shoulder against the side rail and drove the gurney sideways instead of back. Not enough to win, just enough to spoil the angle. The bracelet scraped the sheet as Alon's wrist slid toward the edge. He made a dry sound. The door seal hissed louder. The tech swore under his breath. Veda's voice snapped through the speaker, cut thin by glass. Calder said. Doctor, do not create a medical incident to solve a records issue. Naris tasted blood where her teeth had caught her lip. Then stop moving the patient like a record. The wheel answered louder than she did. Dov leaned in. He did not hit her. He did not need to. Weight, angle, timing. The gurney surged another foot, and Naris's back hit the metal push bar beside the door. Breath left her all at once. For a second, the room reduced itself to sound. Rubber wheel drag. Timer tone. The long dry hiss of the seal. Ilan's shallow breathing. Her own body trying to remember its job. She kept one hand on the rail and the other over Ilan's wrist. The original bracelet stayed visible to the glass. The job had narrowed to three ugly things: visibility, chain, body. The door finished sealing with a heavy click. A red indicator lit above the panel. Access limited. Then a smaller timer appeared under it and began counting down. Calder looked at the light, then at Naris, and for half a second his patience thinned. It came back fast, but she had seen the edge. You have just restricted your own movement, he said. I restricted his, Naris said. Her voice came out rough. The transfer tech stared at the timer as if it might apologize. Veda was still talking beyond the glass, but the sealed door broke her words into harmless pieces. The hold did not make the room safe. It made it smaller. The AC kept blowing stale cold over hot plastic and sweat. Naris shifted her weight and felt the bruise beginning along her ribs. No drama, just a hard bloom under the skin. Dov let go of the rail and stepped back half a pace, enough to look compliant, not enough to stop being a wall. Calder lowered his voice and began ask a tech for the override path. He sounded bored. Routine. Naris ignored his voice and bent close to Ilan because the timer had already started spending the seconds she had bought. Mr. Soar, she said, I need what you know before they open this door again. His eyelids moved. His mouth cracked around air. For a moment she thought he had gone too far under. That all she had purchased was bruising and a locked room with a silent witness in it. Then his fingers twitched under her hand. Not away from the bracelet, but toward it. He swallowed once, painfully. The room seemed to hold its breath with him. Machines and people, both pretending they had not chosen sides. The words came out scraped down to almost nothing. Opened once. Naris kept her hand over Ilan's wrist after he said it. Opened once. 2 words, almost nothing, and still the room changed around them. The timer kept counting down above the sealed door. Clean red numbers, spending the seconds she had bought with her ribs. Calder had gone quiet near the transfer tray. Dov stood with his hands away from the rail now, polite as furniture, but his body still blocked the shortest path to the door. Ilan's lips were cracked white at the edges. He tried to wet them and failed. The cold air from the ceiling should have helped him. It did not. His skin had that wrong chill. Naris had seen it in men pulled from heat and held too long, under machines that did not care what the day had done to them. She checked his wrist, then the board, then his breathing. Not a diagnosis. Not proof. A body refusing the story written on it. The record said crossed. The body looked like it had been spent somewhere else, badly, and then parked under cold light to make the paperwork catch up. Morn would not freeze a corridor for that. Naris knew it before she hated it. Opened once, Naris said, not as a question. Ilan's eyes moved toward her, slow and unfocused. She did not shake him. She did not crowd him with police room questions. Sick people lied less often than frightened systems, but they also ran out of breath. For you, she asked. His fingers twitched under hers. The bracelet scraped lightly against the sheet, a dry plastic sound. Calder's voice came from the edge of the room. He is altered. You are building a theory from hypoxia and delay. Naris did not look at him. I am reading a patient you are trying to move. The timer clicked down another block of red. Beyond the glass, Veda argued with somebody Naris could not hear. Her tablet was up, then lowered, then up again. The amber blink on her badge turned red. Access denied. Veda hit the panel once with the heel of her hand. The sound carried through the glass. She looked at Naris, furious and trapped on the wrong side of a sealed room. Cut the manifest hand. Isolate the medical hand. Keep the body on wheels. Naris caught the pattern and did not have time to admire it. Ilan swallowed. It hurt to watch. His throat worked like dry paper being folded. Naris bent close enough to feel the weak warmth of his breath against her cheek. Not, he said. Nothing after it for a second. The word hung there, useless and huge. Naris waited. Waiting was harder than pressure. The bruise along her ribs pulsed each time she breathed in, and the med-hold light made the room look scrubbed of mercy. Ilan's gaze shifted to the board beyond the glass, then back to his own wrist. Not for me. That was all. No names. No map. No clean package tied with a bow for command to admire. Just opened once, and not for me. Naris closed her fingers around the edge of the Gurney rail. The meaning came in pieces, because real things usually did. If the corridor had opened once and not for Ilan, then something had used his line before his body moved. His seat. His token. His bracelet status. Maybe his name. She could feel the shape of it now, still under cloth, still not enough to drag into daylight. Body signs could contradict a timeline. They could not convict a system. The timer hit its final color. The tone changed from warning to release, thin and final. Calder looked at the door before the latch moved, and that small anticipation told Naris he had been counting with the machine the whole time. Veda's voice burst through the speaker in broken pieces, then died as her access cut fully. The glass showed her mouth still moving. No sound. The door seal loosened with a mechanical sigh. Cold air rolled toward the gap, meeting warmer air from the corridor. And Ilan shivered hard enough that the bracelet bit deeper into his reddened wrist. Naris shifted between the gurney and the opening. Her ribs objected. She lost half a beat to the pain. Hated that she lost it. Then she corrected her stance so she could keep the wrist, the door, and Dove's feet in view. Calder slid his card between two fingers and gave her the look of a man about to be reasonable in a way that would hurt someone. Dove took the rail again. Not fast. He did not have to be. The lock was gone. The door opened before Naris had proof. Before Veda could speak. Before Ilan could give her anything but two fragments and a body that did not fit the lie. The corridor beyond waited with its clean floor line. The door opened into heat. Not the full Airside blast yet. Only the first dry push of it through the threshold corridor. It still hit the cold med-hold, like a hand across the mouth. Ilan shivered again. Wrong for the heat, wrong for the cold, wrong for every clean word on his file. Calder sticks with the same quiet patience, and Dove moved the gurney before anyone made the mistake of calling it a decision. The wheels rolled over the rubber floor with a thick drag. Naris put herself at the front corner, one hand on the rail, one near Ilan's wrist. Her ribs flashed pain when she turned. Pain was information, but not the useful kind yet. It could wait. The line was 15 feet ahead, a pale strip in the floor where the med-hold gave way to the biometric threshold. Beyond it, scanner glass caught white light and threw it back flat. The board still said closed, but Ilan's bracelet still said evacuated. The scanner is not truth. It proves what it was fed. If that read completed on a contaminated chain, Green would not mean right. Green would mean complete. Step aside, Calder said. The hold expired. The custody did not. Dov angled the gurney around her without looking rough. He was careful with the ugly parts. The front wheel crossed the first seam in the floor, and the scanner C woke with a soft rising tone. Not full read. Not yet. Naris heard the change anyway. She had spent too many years in rooms where machines sounded polite while people bled. She shifted left, forcing Dov to correct the angle. The gurney bumped her thigh, then her hip. Ilan's shoulder slid toward the rail. His cracked lips pulled back around a breath he did not have. The bracelet flashed green against his reddened wrist. Calder kept pace beside them, card in hand, voice smooth. You are obstructing an authorized transfer. I am preventing a false completion. You do not have that finding. I have a breathing patient. The scanner tone climbed another note. Halfway, maybe less. Naris shoved the rail sideways and took the gurney's weight through her bad ribs. The pain made the room brighten at the edges. Her boots slipped, caught, slipped again. She had the wrong foot forward for one ugly second. She corrected it, before Dov could use the mistake. Ilan moved then. Not much. A hand that should have stayed useless lifted from the sheet and clamped over the original bracelet. His fingers were weak, shaking, but they covered the status window. The plastic scraped under his palm. Dov reached across to clear the wrist line, still making it look like routine patient management, still careful enough to make anger difficult to name. Naris got her forearm between Dov's hand and Ilan's wrist. Contact, pressure, no clean strike. The gurney lurched. Her shoulder hit the threshold casing, and breath punched out of her again. The scanner gave a broken chirp. Partial read failed, then restarted. Calder's face changed for the first time. Not fear, not rage, just irritation at a process becoming expensive. You are hurting him, he said. Naris looked down. Ilan's mouth was open. His breath came thin and fast. His hand stayed over the bracelet. No, she said, rough. He is holding on. The line sat under the gurney's front wheels. Not crossed. Not clean. Heat from the threshold pushed around their legs and dried the blood at her lip. The scanner tone rose again, sharper now, as if offended by delay. Dov adjusted his stance. Calder lifted his card toward the reader, mounted beside the threshold. Naris saw the move before the light changed and threw her weight into the rail. Not to stop the whole gurney, just to make the angle wrong enough. The wheel hit the metal guide with a hard clack. Ilan's hand slipped but did not leave the bracelet. The reader flashed amber, then green, then amber again. Naris almost followed the green, then caught the scanner tone still unfinished. Not complete. Good. Somewhere behind them, the transfer tech said her name like a warning. It sounded very small against the scanner and the door fans. The wall speaker cracked open with static. Not Veda. A younger voice, tight and low, fought through the clipped noise of the hub. Dr. Holt. Naris kept her eyes on the scanner glass, not Calder's face. Make it short. The voice swallowed air. Rafi NR, relay desk. I have an outside time-stamped mismatch on Soar's corridor token. Calder's card stopped halfway to the reader. The scanner tone held, unfinished, one clean note away from making the record whole. Rafi said, quieter now, it did not fire from inside our window. Rafi's voice did not sound old enough for the trouble he had put into the room. It came through the wall speaker, thin and tight, wrapped in static. While the scanner tone held near completion, and the gurney sat half-angled at the threshold. Repeat that, Naris said. She kept one hand on the rail and one between Dov's reach and Ilan's wrist. The heat beyond the line blew against her shins. The cold behind her pulled at the sweat under her shirt. Rafi swallowed close enough to the mic that the speaker clicked. The corridor token tied to SOAR's line shows an outside relay echo before local authorization. Not a hub delay. Outside. Calder lowered his card but did not step back. The proof was not in the room. Elon was. Naris looked past the scanner glass toward the dry service corridor that led to the relay vault. Somewhere down there sat the external timing she needed, humming in a locked box behind glass and rules. Here, under her hand, Elon's bracelet still covered living skin. Proof in the wrong room while the body is moving. The phrase landed hard because it was not dramatic. It was logistics. And logistics, like most ugly things, did not care how fair it felt. Rafi, Naris said, "Can you hold that record?" "I can name it," he said. "Holding it will get loud. Access logs. Command pings." Somebody above his station, noticing a clerk, refusing to let a discrepancy sink back into the stream. Veda's voice cut in from another speaker, lower quality, clipped by her damaged access. "He is right. The seat line and token order match the outside echo. Same before and after break." "You do not have chain authority," Calder said, almost gently. "Neither do you," Naris said. She forced her weight into the rail one more time, buying 2 ugly seconds while she looked at the room like a bad map. Veda had sequence. Rafi had outside time. Naris had the body and the original bracelet. No one had all three in one place. Architecture did plenty of damage without raising its voice. A dry alarm chirped at the threshold reader. The partial scan timed out with a disappointed click. Calder's eyes shifted to Dov. Not an order anyone could quote. Enough. Dov eased pressure off the gurney as if giving ground, and Naris understood the move a beat too late. She had to leave the line or lose the proof. If she left the line, Calder would move the body. No sane training board taught this choice. Naris turned her head toward the glass. Veda, relay side now. Veda appeared through the interior corridor a few seconds later. Badge still angry red at her chest, tablet held tight under one arm. She had found a manual latch or scared somebody useful. Naris did not ask. The dry service corridor beyond the threshold room smelled of stale AC, dust, and faint ozone from overworked equipment. Every step away from Elon felt wrong enough to have weight. Her ribs protested. Her boots stuck and released on the rubber floor. Behind her, Calder said something to the tech in that routine voice of his. The words were too soft to catch. Worse, the gurney wheels answered them. Rafi stayed on the line as they moved. "Vault row 3, he said. "I can show echo, token, and window. I cannot certify identity." "I do not need you to," Naris said. "I need time. That may be the part I do not have." A relay vault door opened ahead with a buzz. Warm equipment air rolled out, dry and metallic. The vault was narrow, glassed on one side, humming on the other. Green-black rows crawled across a wall display. It was not a movie screen, and it was not magic. It was a tired system, telling on another tired system if you knew where to look. Rafi stood inside with one hand, hovering above a console he had clearly been told not to touch again. He looked younger in person, all cheekbones and fear, but his voice stayed precise. "Token fired outside the local window," he said. "Echo returns before the hub authorizes the corridor line. I did not alter anything." "Good," Veda said. "Do not touch anything else." She lifted her tablet and began matching sequence without pretending she was calm. Naris saw enough. The seat filled, token fired, outside echo sitting in the wrong order. Then her radio snapped open with a different voice, rougher, practical, already angry about seconds. "Holt Jonas Brell, airside status just changed." Naris turned before he finished. Her body knew the sentence ahead of her mind. Where is Elan? Static chewed the pause. Behind the glass, Veda's face went flat. Rafi stopped breathing for a beat. Jonas came back hard and clipped. He is moving. Contractor transfer. Airside vestibule. Another burst of static. He is airside now. Naris ran badly. Not slow, not weak, just badly, the way a body ran when ribs had learned a new shape and nobody had asked permission. The relay vault door buzzed behind her. Veda shouted something about the token sequence. Rafi's voice followed over the line, trying to keep the outside timestamp alive while not sounding terrified of who could hear him. Naris took the dry service corridor at a hard angle. Her shoulder hit the wall once. No time for apologies. Heat grew ahead, a pressure before the door, a change in the air that made the back of her throat tighten. Jonas was on the radio, clipped and close. Airside vestibule. I can hold the inner cycle for maybe 12 seconds, maybe less. Hold the wrong 12, Naris said. Then make them count. He gave a short laugh with no humor in it and cut off. The airside door sighed open before she reached it. Heat slapped across her face. Desert glare spilled through the outer glass, white and hard enough to flatten color. Hot rubber. Grit at the seals. Burned dust. Elan was there, on the gurney, half-turned toward the threshold-adjacent lane. Calder beside him, and Dov blocking the clean line of sight to his wrist. The original bracelet was still on Elan. That was the first thing Naris found. Not his face, not Calder, not the door cycle. Bracelet first. It sat red against his skin under his own shaking hand. Dov had angled the gurney so the rail hid most of the wrist from the nearest camera and from anyone walking in at a glance. It gave the camera rail, sheet, heat, anything but the proof. The move was better than brute force. It made proof look absent without making violence look present. Calder held a sterile plastic sleeve between two fingers, the gray-white replacement band inside it, curved like a small, harmless lie. Temporary reconciliation, he said, calm enough to make the heat seem loud. The original band is reading contaminated status. The original band is the only clean thing you have touched, Naris said. Her breath came short. She stepped toward the gurney, and Dov stepped with her, a wall that had learned manners. Jonas's voice cracked overhead. Cycle pause is holding, not for long. The badge reader by the airside gate chirped once, then twice, impatient and bright. Calder did not look at the reader. He looked at Elan's wrist now. Finally, he had waited to threaten the bracelet until the body was close enough to make replacement look like process instead of intent. Elan saw the band. His eyes were glassy, but some part of him understood the shape of the danger. His hand tightened over the original bracelet. Not much. Enough. Calder lowered the sterisol sleeve toward the rail. Mr. Soar, this prevents confusion on transfer. Elan's lips moved. No sound at first. Naris drove her hip against the gurney to shift the angle, paying for it in a bright stripe of pain along her side. Dov caught the opposite rail and kept the wheels from rolling back. Pride had nothing to do with it. Proof, plastic, heat, seconds. The sleeve crackled. Elan pulled his wrist inward, and the edge of the original bracelet scraped his skin. No, he said, barely there. Calder's fingers paused. Naris heard that tiny stop. Veda's voice cut into the open channel, fast and furious. Naris, the token line and Rafi's outside echo match. Same early window. Rafi came after her, lower. I can keep the relay mark visible, but my access just went warning status. Jonas snapped. 8 seconds. The heat pressed harder with the inner cycle held open. Elan's hand shook. He kept it over the bracelet anyway. Naris got her fingers on the sterile sleeve before Calder could settle it against the rail. The replacement band slid halfway out of the sleeve. Its timestamp strip caught the glare. A thin black line, a small printed time, nothing dramatic enough for what it meant. Naris saw the numbers and needed 1 extra second to trust what she was seeing. Same early window. Same impossible order. The band was not cleanup anymore. It was proof. Calder saw her see it. His face did not break, but his hand closed a little too fast. He tried to take the band back into routine before the room understood what had happened. Naris held the sleeve. The plastic cut into her palm. She let it. Dov shifted closer, blocking again, but Jonas hit the vestibule tone from somewhere beyond the glass and brought an ugly burst of alarm noise. Not a rescue, just seconds. Enough for Veda to say it clearly over the channel. Replacement band carries the same timestamp as the corridor token. Rafi added, almost under her, and the outside relay echo. Ilan's breath hitched. His hand stayed locked over the original bracelet. Naris looked from the timestamp strip to Calder's mouth, then to the airside line waiting beyond them. Hot air moved through the open cycle. The duplicate lay between them in its clear sleeve, ordinary as trash and twice as dangerous. The alarm Jonas had bought turned ugly, a rough burst that made the airside vestibule feel smaller than it was. Naris kept one hand locked on the replacement band sleeve and the other near Ilan's original bracelet. The plastic had started to bite into her palm. Heat moved through the open cycle in dry waves, pushing cold Med-Hold air back behind her. Calder tried to take the sleeve without seeming to take it. Dov shifted to block the sightline again, shoulder in front of the rail, body making a wall out of courtesy. Naris moved half a step with him instead of fighting the wall. The scanner at the threshold waited, polite and hungry. If Ilan crossed now under Calder's custody, the lie would not need to argue anymore. It would have a body, a band, a token, and a machine ready to agree. Naris did not chase Calder's explanation. She looked for the shortest path to proof visibility. Wrist in light. Replacement band in hand. Scanner denied a clean angle. Command forced to watch all three. Veda, she said into the open channel. Say it in order. Her ribs hurt enough that each word arrived with a price. Ilan's hand stayed clamped over the original bracelet. His fingers shook. Living skin. Original band. Wrong status. Something the room couldn't see if anyone bothered to look. Veda answered fast, no decoration. Seat filled before Med-Hold clearance. Corridor token fired before opening. Replacement band repeats the same timestamp. Rafi came in behind her, lower and tighter. External relay echo confirms the early window. It is outside local control. Calder moved then. Not toward the proof. Toward the line. He pushed process where argument had failed, and Dov helped him with a clean shift of weight. The gurney rolled inches, not feet, but inches were enough near a threshold. The scanner tone rose. Jonas snapped over the channel. 5 seconds before I lose the cycle. Naris drove her shoulder into the rail and felt the bruise under her ribs open like a hot fist. The gurney skewed. One front wheel kissed the floor line and stopped there, trembling from pressure. Calder's card flashed near the reader. Green. Then amber. For one blink, Naris hated the green, then caught the amber and the unfinished scanner note. No completion. Not yet. You are out of authority, Calder said. No, Naris said. You are out of custody. Her voice sounded thin. It still landed. Ilan lifted his wrist a little, forcing the original bracelet into the light. Weak shaking, enough. The scanner glass caught the bracelet reflection and threw it back toward the observation wall. The command panel above the observation glass lit with incoming authority. Colonel Tarek Morn appeared first, jaw tight, eyes moving over too many things at once. Vera Kest came on a second later, colder, clearer, remote and unwelcome in exactly the right way. She did not ask who was upset. Chain elements, she said. Naris did not stop the room to make a speech. She forced the pieces into the same breath. Living body, original bracelet reading evacuated. Corridor board still closed. Filled seat, early token, extrasentinel relay, replacement band duplicate. Veda sent the sequence. Rafi sent the timestamp. Jonas held the cycle long enough for the channel to stop clipping. Ilan kept his wrist up until his arm started to drop. Naris caught his sleeve before the bracelet fell out of sight. The scanner's tone stuttered at the bad angle, trying to finish and failing. Calder's face stayed calm, but the calm had gone flat at the edges. Vera was silent for 2 seconds, long enough for the heat to dry Naris's mouth and for Dov to try one more small pressure through the Gurney rail. Naris took it through her hip and did not move. Her body wanted to fold around the pain. The job was rude enough to continue. Chain contaminated, Vera said. Contractor transfer authority, suspended pending external custody review. It was not loud or merciful. It was enough. Calder's badge reader gave a flat denial chirp. Then another. The green on his card died to a hard, indifferent red. Dov stopped pushing because the system he had been hiding behind had stepped away from him. Morn looked like a man's swallowing broken glass. Corridor status, he asked. Vera's answer came through without warmth. Limited medical custody transfer only. Correct custody chain required. Above the threshold, the board flickered. Closed vanished. Not cleanly, not triumphantly, but with a tired electronic blink. The new words burned across the glass. Limited medical custody transfer. Nobody clapped. Nobody smiled. The corridor had not opened. Not really. It had admitted it could not open clean. Naris loosened her grip on the replacement sleeve only after Veda confirmed the timestamp remained captured and Rafi confirmed the outside echo stayed visible. Elan's hand slipped from the bracelet. Naris caught it before it fell. Calder looked at the board, then at his dead badge, and said nothing at all. The board did enough talking for the room. The board stayed limited. Limited medical custody transfer glowed above the threshold in cold white letters, reflected backward in the observation glass and broken across Naris's face. Her breath came shallow. The bruise along her ribs had become a separate animal under her skin, angry and awake. Elan lay on the gurney with his wrist turned outward, original bracelet visible. The red skin beneath it proof of a body that had stayed inconvenient long enough. Vera Kest's voice came through the command line, clipped and dry. Correct custody path only. Holt holds temporary medical override under my review and Colonel Morn's operational oversight. Morn did not make it soft. Good. Soft would have been insulting. Temporary, he said. Narrow. You move him and nothing else. Naris looked at Elan, not the rank on the screen. That is enough. It was enough for the move. Nothing more. Jonas opened the inner cycle. The door gave a tired sigh, and the heat beyond it rolled back like it had been waiting to see who owned the body now. Calder tried his badge once while they turned the gurney toward the correct custody lane. The reader gave the same flat denial tone. He tried again because men like him trusted repetition when reality became rude. Denied. No drama. No curse. Just the little dead sound of access gone. Dov stood half a step behind him, large and quiet, hands visible now. Naris did not waste a look on either man for long, but she kept Dov's feet in her peripheral vision. Nothing was over until the body crossed under the right chain. Veda walked on the far side of the gurney with the captured sequence held tight to her chest. Rafi remained on audio, still breathing like each second could become an accusation. Jonas counted the door cycle in clipped bursts. Nobody had turned into a hero. That was probably why the chain held. Ilan stirred when the wheels crossed the first marked strip under the corrected path. His eyes opened enough to find Naris. "Now," he whispered. She kept her palm near the bracelet, not touching unless she had to. "Now you cross under the right custody." The scanner chirped, lower this time. It did not sound kinder. It sounded watched. The original bracelet stayed on his living wrist while the line passed under the wheels. The threshold read completed under Vera's custody marker and Naris's temporary override. The system accepted it with a thin tone that should have felt like relief and instead felt like a door locking behind them. Elon's status changed, but not to the clean lie Calder had tried to buy with process and heat and careful hands. Correct custody transfer. Limited corridor movement. External review attached. Naris read each line, because she did not trust summaries anymore, maybe never had. The board did not change to open. It held limited, stubborn and honest, a rare mood for a machine. Behind the observation glass, Morn rubbed one hand over his mouth and looked older than he had 10 minutes ago. Vera did not praise anyone. Override expires at handoff unless renewed through external chain. Understood, Naris said. Veda's badge stayed red at the edge, not fully restored. Rafi's relay access showed warning status. Jonas had lost a clean airside cycle and was already taking blame in clipped replies to someone off-channel. Consequences. Real ones. Naris felt them gather around the win. Elon was still breathing. That remained the center. Everything else could stand in line and be disappointed. The sealed record arrived on thermal stock that was too warm from the printer. It slid from the protected transfer unit beside the glass with a soft mechanical cough. Then sat there like a small flat animal nobody wanted to touch. Naris picked it up because that seemed to be her role now. Touching the thing everyone else hoped would stay abstract. The header was plain. Protected transfer record. Elon linked authorization. The time was the same impossible early window. The receiving identity line was sealed, blacked out by authority above the room, but the chain marker remained visible. Final sealed protected transfer record tied to Elon linked authorization. Somebody had used a path tied to Elon before Elon crossed it. Not a full answer. Worse. A locked door with blood on the handle. Calder saw the paper from across the lane. For the first time, something like fear passed behind his eyes, quick and disciplined. Then it was gone. His badge denied him once more when he shifted toward the exit. Flat tone. Dead access. Naris folded the sealed record once and held it against her bruised side. Elon moved under correct custody. The board stayed limited, and the corridor